They were halfway through Hell Week when he cracked the joke. Mud-covered, exhausted, and lined up in silence, one recruit broke formation just enough to whisper, "Guess the scars couldn't make her tougher, huh?" His voice wasn't loud, but it was loud enough. The woman in front of him didn't flinch. She stood tall, blood dried along the side of her cheek, sand caked to her arms, expression unreadable. Her scars weren't stories she told. They were stories she wore. The others had heard him too. Some looked away. One stifled a smirk. She remained still, silent, focused. The drill sergeant barked for silence, and they continued the crawl through the obstacle pit. But the recruit, nameplate Mason, had already started something he didn't understand. By the third day, everyone knew her name, but few knew her past. To them, she was just another transfer, older than the rest, quieter and obviously different. But she crushed every physical exam, outran the fastest, outlasted the toughest, and yet the whisper followed her. Where'd she even come from? Mason asked it loud enough over dinner once, "Hey, Lieutenant, how come no one talks about where she served?" He grinned. "Classified, right? Must be top secret badge polishing." A few laughed. She didn't even turn her head. But someone else did, the Master Sergeant. And with that look alone, the table went silent. At dawn, they stood in rows again, bruised, soaked, eyes burning. And just before they broke into drills, a convoy rolled in. A black SUV, flags on the hood, doors opened, silence dropped over the yard. Out stepped General Hartley, not a name thrown around lightly, not the type of visit that ever went unnoticed. He walked through the formation slowly, hands behind his back, steel-eyed. Stopped right in front of her. "Lieutenant Vega," he said, voice deep. "Still standing, I see." She nodded once. "Always, sir." Mason's jaw tightened. Lieutenant, she never wore rank, never used a title. They assumed she was just there for requalification. But now she stood locked in a salute as the general did something no one expected. He returned it. Then he turned to the recruits and said, "You all want to be elite. That's why you're here. But one of you already is, and none of you had the courtesy to ask why she walks the way she does." The field was dead silent. "This woman," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder, "carried 2 men out of enemy fire with a shattered leg and a collapsed lung. She refused medevac until the rest of her unit was safe. Her scars aren't stories. They're survival. Her name is Lieutenant Camilla Vega, but to the ones who served with her, she's better known by a different name." He paused, scanning the group. "Call sign, Reaper." Mason's face drained of color. "She earned that name in Kandahar," the general continued. "When a covert team went dark and reinforcements couldn't reach in time, she went in alone. She got all 6 out, took 3 rounds and still walked them back across the ridge." Someone swallowed loudly. Another took a step back. The general's tone sharpened. "And this week, not one of you stood by her. You mocked what you couldn't understand. You judged what you hadn't earned the right to ask about. So let me be clear, none of you are ready to wear her boots." He stepped forward, looking directly at Mason. "You laughed at her scars. Now learn what respect tastes like." Mason opened his mouth to speak, but the general raised a hand. "Save it. You're not dismissed yet." Turning to Vega, the general softened. "The brass wanted to give you a medal. You said no. Wanted to requalify like everyone else, but I think it's time we stop pretending you're like everyone else." He glanced at the rest of the unit. "You just made it through Hell Week, standing next to a legend, and didn't know it." As the general walked back to his vehicle, Vega remained where she was, stone still. She hadn't moved, hadn't said a word, but something had changed. Later that night, Mason approached her outside the barracks. He didn't say much, just stood there. Then finally spoke. "I didn't know. I was just being—" He stopped himself. "Stupid." She looked at him, eyes steady. "Everyone's stupid at some point," she said quietly. "The difference is whether they learn something after." He nodded. "Thank you, for not breaking me when you could have." She shrugged. "Not my job." And then she walked past, leaving behind only silence. From that day on, she wasn't just a scarred woman with a hard stare. She was Reaper, And those who trained with her carried the weight of her name with a reverence few would ever fully understand. Because some heroes don't come in with fanfare. Some arrive quietly, battle-worn, battle-proven, and change the meaning of strength forever. Before we wrap up this journey, let's take a moment. Where in the world did you join us from? So, if you saw someone mocked for their scars, would you speak up or stay silent? Subscribe for more powerful stories, hit the like button, and let us know in the comments what real strength means to you.